I wanted to go into a bit more detail about that rather ambiguous, oh, I'm really excited, but I can't say anything post that I did last night. And if you're here, I guess, for, money stories of like, this is how much money I made, or like details, I'm not going to do that because I'm very northern and it feels weird talking about money on the internet and sharing that bit of my life. But I will say, over the last few months, I've had some really significant changes in my business. And I want to talk you through the process of that, because I was really feeling that I needed to make those moves. I needed to make those changes. And yesterday was a very significant moment for me yesterday. Financially, it's going to make a difference. I'm trying to say this in a very eloquent way, but I'm not really sure quite how to do it. Financially, it's allowing different choices, let's just say that. But in terms of an own personal success, sorry, I should have thought about how I was going to say this in terms of a goal, because I'm very mindful that I want to say things in the right way. And I have seen so many of these videos of like, hey guys, I've done this, this and this, and it's not helpful because it's not transparent, because people are going, is it turnover? Is it net? Is it what happened? Did you pay the people that you were working with? There's so much chat around money and women in business and all the rest of it at the moment. But I guess I wanted to track this journey because if you read my post last night, on September the 8th, I wrote a post. So to give a bit of context to this, at the end of August, beginning of September, we went away for a week, and I really appreciated that ability to do that, because in my business, in my life, I was feeling, and in 2020, I was feeling quite tired. I was feeling exhausted. You will know like how you feel in that sort of thing. You feel that something's got to give, something's got to change, so you needed to shake it up a little bit. And I was feeling like that in my business. I was feeling quite heavy in my body. I was struggling to make the decisions that usually I would make, and I didn't necessarily have that clarity. And yesterday, November the 16th, so from September the 8th to November the 16th, yesterday how do I say it in a lovely way? I exceeded a personal goal that I wanted to do. And that personal goal is nothing to do with money, but the money is a result, will be a kind of extension of that. But I wanted to talk it through because so many of my clients at the moment are feeling that, like, where am I going? What am I doing? What's this all about? What are the next steps for me? Do I need to pivot my business? What's going to be the best use of my time? Because I think also as well, around this time of year, lots of people are busy and winding down and things like that. And already, like, the easy option is to shelf it till January, isn't it? Like, oh, just leave it there. So this exercise can be picked up whenever you need it. So the first thing that I did when I took that week away was I chose not to ignore my feelings. So the first point of view was that clearly I was having all those feelings. I was feeling tired. I was feeling unsure about certain things. I knew I wanted to change stuff. There were bits that I wanted to do more of. And I think it's so easy when we are all here, there and everywhere to just keep going, to be busy, to not give up, to, well, I've said I'm going to do this, so now I'm going to do that, and just keep kind of plodding on. Hi. So my first thing that I did was to not ignore my feelings, because everything in my body, in my soul, in my heart, in my head at 3 o'clock in the morning was kind of bringing to the surface like something. It was that kind of moment, when you're in the sea where suddenly you're like, I feel like a big wave is coming and I'm not quite sure if it's going to take me and I'm going to be like some elegant person in the home and away credits, or it's going to flatten me. So that was the first thing I really needed to do, was not ignore those feelings and feel them and look at them and all the rest of it. The second thing I needed to do was to give myself the time and the space and the permission to figure it out. Again, what we can all be tempted to do is just keep going, load more stuff on. Sometimes you see people putting on makeup, don't you? And they're like, that eyeliner's gone a bit weird, I'll just put some more stuff on. We've all done it. And then you get to that point where you're like, I've put too much stuff on now I need to take something away. So I needed to close my laptop. And this is interesting because when I went away on day 1 or day 2, I was kind of saying to my partner, look, I'll just do like a couple of hours of work in the morning and then like I'm all yours, because my business will, it has good systems and clients are taken care of. I kind of ironed all that out. And the 1 to 2 hours work was about growth and was about building. And I sat down on the second morning and I had to have that stern word with myself, like, what am I doing? I'm here on holiday considering what I need to do to grow my business, and I'm sending an email or I'm talking to a journalist or something like that. And I just kept hearing this voice, niggle, feeling, whatever you'd like to call it, going, close your laptop, leave it. And on that second day, I closed my laptop. I had emails on my phone, which I do, but I made a commitment to myself to pay attention to what was going on in that moment. And you may be feeling this when you know that there's a change coming, that you have to get to a point where you take charge. And that point of taking charge can sometimes be out your comfort zone, because certainly when I was growing up and I was a child and I wasn't from parents who were like, just take it easy, just relax, like just do the bare minimum. My parents were really keen for me to excel and be a good person and fulfill my potential and all of these things that lots of us feel. And so closing down, reflection, pulling back does sometimes feel out of my comfort zone because it feels indulgent, it feels lazy. These are all limiting beliefs, by the way. These are not my true opinions. I think reflecting and pulling back is absolutely essential, but I really struggled with it. And again, what I had to do in that moment is pay attention. Oh, right. Okay. You really struggle with that. Okay, fine. Oh, it's that moment in yoga where you're sitting down and you're like, right, I'm jiffling around. I'm uncomfortable in the moment. And what they're saying, all I have to do is sit here and breathe. Whew, I'm not sure about that. So that was my little test, my challenge of like, are you going to be willing to be bold enough, to be courageous enough, to be trusting enough to close that laptop when you're on holiday, which again, as I'm saying, it seems completely ludicrous, and trust the process that something else is coming and needs to come to the surface. The third thing I did was I really took care of myself. I didn't do a juice detox. I didn't, run kind of 4 hours a day or anything like that. But what I did do was I took care of myself. I had late nights, I had sleep-ins sometimes, like my partner and I managed to kind of jiggle it with 2 children and things like that. I had an extra glass of wine when I really wanted one. I had really lovely chats. I played with my kids. I did take some time for exercise and I did that. I had dessert every day, like all of these things. Like I gave myself like that, like a boot, when you put moisturizing cream on or oil or something like that and your skin just goes, that's what I needed. That's how I felt. So I did those things that weren't about deprivation. They were about like, what can I do? And suddenly, once I started to really notice, and this happened really quickly over a week, we were only away Saturday to Saturday. By about day 3, I was like, I'm starting to feel really revived, really refreshed and things like that. The fourth thing that really happened and that I noticed was I had to let things land. And this is a really interesting thing, and this is why it's quite hard, especially, well, there's so many things that are hard about 2020, But that ability to change your surroundings or get a different perspective or meet a different friend for a coffee or go to the beach or whatever it might be, or just have a bit of peace and quiet, right? That's when my ideas come. Not when I'm sitting at my laptop, but when I'm out and about, when I'm absorbing and when I'm really in life, I would say. So as I started to close down and to settle in and to ground and to take care of myself, suddenly things started to bob up. Or I would be walking along the beach and I'd suddenly be like, no, I don't want to do that anymore. No. Oh my goodness, what would that feel like? So I almost had to let these thoughts, feelings, ideas, shifts land and notice them and not make them wrong, not make them make sense, because sometimes when you're in that transitional period, it doesn't make sense at first, or you get that pulling or you get that inkling that there is this or you need to go in this direction, and there's no sense, there's no rhyme or reason, but it feels very heart-led in that way. So number 5, after I'd let things land, I knew that I needed to revise my own rule book, and I would highly recommend this, and I have done this a lot over the years and it really works for me, and you can make this whatever you want it to be. When I am at a point where I know there's more, or I'm at a signposted moment of like, right, where do I go? What does the next chapter look like? I know I have to check in with the rules and what my own boundaries are, my own negotiations, like where am I going? So I really had to get clear and look at the different areas of my life. So what do I want my home life to be like? What do I want my work life to be? Who do I want to work with? What money do I want to bring in, and how do I want to do it in a way that feels really good? How do I want to be on a day? Sorry, there's all kinds of sirens going on. How do I want to be energetically? How do I want to feel on a day-to-day basis? What is that balance and that structure going to kind of look like? Because again, if you don't consciously check in with your own rule book, what happens is you hand the rules over to somebody else and you say things like, I'll just wait and see, or I'll hope for the best, or they'll tell me what they need, or you crowd fund your own opinions. And that can be so easy to do, especially on the internet when everybody's talking so loudly and telling you and feeding back, and you're in the conversation and all those notifications that are pinging. Sorry if that's really triggering as I'm saying it, but all of those things can somehow get into our psyche, and they're getting in the way of us and our intuition and our own instinct and what we need to do going forward. So I had to start writing my own rule book. And one of the things that came up was that I wanted to work with my clients in a different way. So I wanted to work with fewer clients, but more in depth. And that's a video for another time, but that's just one example where I was just like, what am I here to do? How can I be really useful? Where do I want to take this? And what's going to be fulfilling for me, and also really rewarding and a great result for my client as well. The next thing that I did was I listened to the conversations and I paid attention to what was missing. This will give you a real insight about what you want to do or you need to do next. So one of my big things that really pops up to say hello is when I'm out and about, I am seeking, not from randoms at bus stops or anything like that, but I really want to have the time and space and energy and motivation to have proper conversations with people. I don't want people's lasting memory to be like, hi, yeah, oh, Nikki's always busy, or she's always tired, or she's fine, she's running, she's here, there and everywhere. And I really noticed that when other people are doing that and they're not connected and they're not in the room, that's sometimes a thing for me where I'm like, oh, I never want to be like that. So sometimes noticing those things, like whether it's about your industry, and paying attention to what's missing or what you hear people talking about. So one of the things, for example, in terms of the way that I was reworking my packages, is a lot of my kind of clients who had done courses and various other things, what they were craving was accountability. That was one of the things that was coming up. They were like, right, I've done the thing, but I don't know how to move on, or like I could really do with another pair of eyes, or just the fact that they want to release this big scary hairy thing that they've got to do, and they need somebody to tell, or they need that security, they need that support in that way. So by listening to conversations, by tuning in with what you want and what you don't, or what you like or what really annoys you, will give you some clues as to how you move forward. And this rule book that you're going to have going forward will allow you to put lots of different, it's ever changing, as it were. This has been integral. So one thing that I was going to say in terms of the money, I'm not going to share the amount because I'm not. This will be on track for my biggest month in business ever. And I've been doing this for 25 years. And that was apparent yesterday on the 16th of November. And that kind of blew my mind, because I think sometimes we can feel like we're going to need the whole time, or we're going to need all of that sort of stuff. But I tell you what, one of the key things, and I don't think that it's an accident, I don't think it's a coincidence, but as I've been doing this Movember challenge, as lots of you have every day, it's no coincidence that I've really prioritized moving my body, getting myself outside, moving, shaking, maybe not shaking, but being intentional about moving every day. I feel like that has linked to my success, I guess, or the things that I've been able to achieve. And I tell you why. That movement for me, I've realized, is absolutely non-negotiable. And because I'm a child of the 80s and 90s, where everybody watched the mum go to step aerobics, and it was all about like, right, if you do this 3 times a week, you can have your Angel Delight and whatever it might be. It was all about like doing the exercise so you could do the other stuff. And actually, yes, I want my heart and lungs and my body to work well, and it's nice to fit into your clothes and feel comfortable. But actually, for my creativity, for my connection with myself, for my clarity of thought, for my own time to release stuff, that has been absolutely key. On my podcast, I talked about this thing that I do, which is a weird visual, and some people will be like, you have lost your mind, Nikki, but that's fine. It might work for you. So things like when I'm about to go up a hill, for example, instead of going, oh my goodness, it's so far away and I'm never going to get there, instead, I imagine that I've got this very flamboyant kind of cloak that unravels itself as I go up. So what I'm doing as I'm going up that hill is I feel like I'm expanding. I feel like I'm releasing. I feel like I'm kind of flying up there, rather than kind of, because I'm not the fastest runner in the world. And I imagine all of those colours kind of coming out. And that's a really lovely visual. And as I get to the top, or as I get about 75%, 80% of the way, that's the point where I want to give up. Oh, I've done enough now. I'm tired. I'm never going to make it. Oh, I'll just walk this last bit. So the final colour, again, you might be like, what is she talking about? The final colour I imagine as I'm going up and that cloak is coming out is like all the black, grim, snotty, luminous green kind of gunk that's in my body, that's holding me back, that's standing in my own way, the old limiting beliefs, the mean things people said, all of that stuff. Because that sense of satisfaction when I get to the top and I'm like, oh my goodness, I went really deep there. I got rid of all of the stuff and I made it. And it feels amazing, those kind of things. Again, you might be like, you're off your trolley. So I've really noticed that consistency has been absolutely key. So this Movember challenge of just doing 20 minutes per day, that really adds up. So I guess in terms of your business, is like, what are those things that you want to do every day? What are going to have those cumulative effect where you suddenly get, I don't know, 2 weeks in and you're like, oh my goodness, I've done that thing every day. I'm really starting to settle into this. This feels really good, and, you know, kind of noticing. Because what happens when you build consistency is that you feel like you have that ease and flow that I talk about so often. And what I guess we are programmed to believe is that we have to be on this snakes and ladders situation. So we start at one all the time, and then we go up, and then we have to come down. And we, even if we get right to the end, we're going to have to come down at some point, because who are we to stay in this glorious, 98, 99, 100 kind of moment? And if we visualize like the success of our business or our life or whatever it might be as that moment, there is that sense that every time you don't do something or something doesn't go right, that you're going all the way back to one. And I just want to show you that you're really not. This is just about keeping moving forward, slowly but surely, all of those things. The final thing, how many other things have I got to say? The final thing is I made a decision to lead from instinct. And instinctively, I do that anyway. But I have got distracted occasionally, like we all do. We've all, I'm sure, written pages of our website or our LinkedIn profile, or we've had conversations, and you leave and you go, they don't feel like my words. They don't feel like I want to do that. Or why have I fallen into the trap of my industry when I would never do that in real life? And this happens for my clients quite a lot when they're like, I'm doing stuff online and it just doesn't feel like me. And usually what's happened is they're doing an online version of themselves. So instead of saying, who am I in the world offline, and bringing that to the table, they've got this weird kind of caricature version of themselves that they feel like they almost have to step into, but it's not quite aligned in that way. And this leading from instinct is one that requires time and space and checking in. So actually leading from instinct, even though I've got a quicker result, I felt that I've had to go slowly. I've had to go consistently. Those challenges, if you've ever seen them, you get them at like school fairs and stuff like that, where you get the loopy thing and you have to take it along the thing without it beeping. Do you know what I mean? In order to get to the end, the temptation is to go, whoop, it'll be fine. But actually to do it with that consistency, with that grace, with that intention, you have to go really slowly. You have to take all of the points in a way that is deliberate, that is discerning. And that's kind of what I felt like I've had to do, is to slow right down in order to speed up. Because if I didn't, I would miss the things. If I didn't, I wouldn't have that moment of being able to check in. The final thing I want to say is I checked in with that vision, with those goals, with where I wanted to go every single day. And the tempting thing is to go, I don't have time to do that, or like that's just going to be too much. So what I had to do, because I had that myself, is I'm going to have to make this easy for myself. I'm going to have to make this accessible. So I keep this big book that I have of all the stuff on my table, and I can see it all the time, and it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm looking at it at 7 a.m. or I'm doing something every single morning, because invariably I will have one or two children, arriving in the morning. But that visual representation, excuse me, I've got hiccups, of having all of those things in a physical book, even if I'm not looking at it every day, I'm seeing that book as I walk into my living room, or I'm holding that book and I'm taking it to bed, or I'm doing something, or I'm taking it somewhere else. And by committing those dreams, those goals into that book, I am betting on myself and making it real and saying that they're important. Because how many times do we see people who will say, I'm definitely going to do that, or I really fancy wanting to do that, but it's just, I'm working on it, I'm thinking about it, I'm trying it, and it's got this dabbling mentality. And I knew, based on what was happening in September, if I was going to go all in, if I was going to do the things that I actually wanted to do, so not just have another year where I'm like, yeah, again, that was on my goal list and I really wanted to do it. If I was like, no, I'm going to do this. And bizarrely, a week or so ago, the 9th of November was my birthday. And at the beginning of this month, I was like, this is going to be my best financial month of my life. I made that decision because I was like, ooh, that would be great. And usually I get a flurry of excitement and kind of momentum anyway in November. But by committing these things, writing them down, is that, especially if you've got family, especially if you've got friends, which hopefully we all have, especially if we've got people around us, or businesses, things or people or commitments that need something from us, unless you take care of your own dreams, your own hopes, your own wishes, they are going to fade away. And this was such a shift that I had to make, because and if you don't know my background, I went to drama school many years ago and I'm still working as an actor today. But for some reason, the drama school system makes you think that you're going to be plucked from obscurity, that somebody's going to find you and they're going to do that, hey honey, you're amazing, come to Hollywood. And that doesn't really happen, because Steven Spielberg wouldn't have your number necessarily. So you have to create your own luck. You have to take care of your own dreams and really make them important to yourself. And the final thing that I want to say is, knowing what that vision was made me discerning about how I use my time, my efforts, how I committed, what I did, what I said yes to, what I said no to, because I felt like I had that very firm line in the sand of being able to make a decision. Is this going to take me closer to where I want to go, or is it going to pull me away? Because that vision felt so rich, so bright, so vibrant, like it had like a whole big sound system going on. It felt like that kind of exciting. It felt like that disco was calling me forward. And if I had something that I was thinking about, or it didn't make me feel good, or I was doing X, Y, and Z, I had to go, no, it's not going to be the one. And that's not to say like it's not going to be the one forever or anything like that. But for the time being, in order to make that step, I knew that I need to do that. So I hope that has been useful today. I'm sorry, yet not, but it's not been a clickbaity type one where I'm gonna share my numbers or like what happened or things in contracts or any of that kind of juicy stuff, because actually I hope that you will have your own version of this, that if you have a niggle or a thought or like things have got to change up a little bit, I hope this process of going through it, and I will save this as well, hopefully this will be useful for you, and that you will be able to carve out not necessarily a holiday or time away, because we're in lockdown in the UK. Hi Dawn. But hopefully this will be some time for you even to take an hour and take yourself, I don't know, to the woods and have a walk, or go for a drive or something like that, and think, what is the next chapter? What's the next step? And I finally want to say, it is really important that you do this. Not because like I want to use any marketing spiel about, yeah, we're at the end of 2020, make your goals matter. I just want to say it from like a human being to a human being. Like, it really matters. If this year has taught us anything, my goodness, there are so many things that I will not be doing again, that I left in 2019. And I felt like that a lot over my lifetime as well. There were things like, you know, when I had my son, I was like, I'm not going to do that thing anymore. Or when I had my daughter, I was like, oh, okay, definitely not that thing. And that's the thing, isn't it? We're ever evolving. We're looking at how we want to show up, what the next chapter is, and all that good stuff. Anyway, I will leave it there. Thank you so much for spending some time with me. I'm having a CEO day on Thursday, which is my Jam and Plan all-day event, and you get a week of email support with me afterwards. So if that's something that you're like, oh my goodness, I actually really need to work on my business, that seems great. It's 4 hours of your time. There's 4 sessions on the day, and it's all fully recorded. So sometimes people hop in and out, or they're like, I've got to go and get the kids from school, so I'll catch up on the last session later. Absolutely. And the content is all yours as well afterwards. So I'm doing Jam and Plan Live on Thursday. I'm doing another one in January. So again, if you want to start January, well, it's actually not till the 11th of January, because I was like, I'm not doing something on New Year's Day. Also, like, we're all about 47% cheese, unless we're vegans, on Christmas, New Year's Day anyway. So like, that feels quite the commitment to start your dream life then, doesn't it? So, and also you're just enjoying yourself. Usually that, for us, it's like that last couple of days before everybody kind of gets back to normal. I'm going to save it. Yes, absolutely. So yeah, Jam and Plan Live. The November one is this Thursday. The January one is the 11th. And also that week of email support has been really valuable. So I've done about 5 this year of this same event. And what happens then is you absorb all the information on the day. And sometimes what can happen is you wake up the next day and you're like, oh, this feels a bit hectic, I'm not really sure how to make a move, or I feel really overwhelmed, or look at my to-do list, I don't know where to start. And knowing that you've got me at the end of email or the end of WhatsApp for the next year, I was going to say the next year, not the next year, the next week, can really help you start to put things in place. So, for example, I had a photographer in the summer who was like, do you know what? I am not going to give away my services for free anymore. Like, the end. And at the end of her Jam and Plan day, it was so interesting because, and this always happens, she got a test. She got a test on Instagram. An insurance company did some kind of bullshit message of like, we really love your work and we would love to give you a shout out on Instagram, and if you could just give us half a day for free, it would be mutually beneficial. And it was so lovely that she was like, no, because she'd done the second module, which was all about money, and she was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I am no, I'm no longer available for working for free. And just having me at the end, just having that at the end is just going, no, you can do it. It's going to be fine. And yeah, I have a coach for a year as well, because, and as I've gone through this up level, I'm going, yeah, but what about this? When I had my chat with her last night, actually, I felt like, even though I got the result that I wanted yesterday, I feel like I was being dragged. The description I gave was, I felt like I'd been dragged along by dogs. You know, when you see people on You've Been Framed, like, wow! And Anyway, my loves, I will save this. Thank you so much for joining me once again.
As well.
All right, take care. Lots of love.